All right, you ready, my guy?
Yes, sir.
Bet. All right. Welcome to the next episode of the Believer podcast. I'm here with Steven today. I'm going to ask you kind of just talk about your journey and what your story has been from when you were young till now.
Okay, for sure. Appreciate you having me on the show, Kamar. Good to see you. Good to hear from you, man. Um, so yeah, my name is Stephen Lyles. I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. I moved down to Atlanta, Georgia when I was 13, and that's when I went to Johns Creek High School. And man, when I first started playing basketball, I just was really inspired by Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, like just seeing those guys and not necessarily the things they're doing on the court, but hearing about how they were working off the court, how hard they work. So, especially, being younger, seeing those guys, I knew it was gonna take hard work. I knew it was gonna take dedication. So, just playing and stuff, I always knew I had to work hard and, just have fun playing. That's the number one thing I like to tell people is, when you're having fun playing, you don't really feel like you're working. So, just playing and playing and getting in as many reps and whatnot. After Johns Creek High School, I ended up transferring my senior year during COVID to Valor Christian Academy, which was a private school. We were 1A. We won the state championship that year, and it was, just a more good experience, learning how to win, working a different way. We used to have practice before class every morning at 5 a.m. So, you know, it was just adjusting, playing under a new coach, new situation, just another part of basketball that over time I started to look at and see as, good opportunity just for life, Sometimes things are going to change and whatnot. So just as life continue going on, seeing the opportunities basketball is creating, me making new friends, meeting new people by going to a private school. After that, I was fortunate enough to get a 4-year scholarship at Spring Hill College, a Division II school in Mobile, Alabama. And playing there, I went there all 4 years as a freshman. I had started some games. I came off the bench, but really it was just, taking that next step, adjusting to college basketball. The guys that are bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, they play harder, but it was one of those things where you got to go through that progression to see one, if you really want it, and then two, it's just learning pains, growing pains when you're a young guy and you're a young freshman, especially too, and playing against guys 3, 4 years older than you, it's always going to be that little curve. So, that's an experience for sure too. I hope a lot of people don't take for granted that I definitely, look back on and appreciate it. Just getting to see the guys older than me and learning from them, as well as battling toe to toe with them. So, after Spring Hill College, I just finished my first professional season in Iceland. I played in Iceland's second division. So, I had a pretty good season, averaged about 18 points per game. Got my team to the semifinals, which was the first time uh, in over 10, 13 years, something like that. So, that was good experience for sure. And, just free agent now, just been working, waiting to see what I'm going to do next. So,
Hey, that's big time. Getting to be a pro is is not it's not
yeah,
no
man,
joke.
it's awesome.
What would you tell someone that's younger that's trying to become a pro and get to that stage in life? What would you tell them about your journey and what their journey could look like, or just to understand that type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I would say just taking as much information and, put in as much work as you can because something that I definitely think got me to where I am now is just learning and growing from as many people as I could, making as many connections. Like, I went to Johns Creek, Kamara went to Cambridge, but I remember when I was younger, following him on Instagram, we had the same trainer. We're working out with Champ, shout out 3P Athletics.
Facts.
And so, just making that connection there, seeing how he was working, learning from him, growing from him, and then, meeting other people, getting in the gym with other guys, test my game out against people who, I know I'm better than to see how it looks out, and then going to play against guys who, are better than me and seeing how it looks, just testing myself in different ways, getting as many experiences and getting as many opportunities as possible and just taking as much information as you can on the way because you never know, if you're put in a situation where, say, a coach likes to run a certain offense and you used to talk to this guy and he told you about this offense, that information or that little piece might give you a step up above the next guy. And then, it's just learning and growing and using all the skills that you've accumulated over time to, when it's time to use them, you just got to perform. So I would say, if you have aspirations to play professional, college, anything like that, then one thing I would just say is, you got to just be a sponge. Soak in as much information as you can, take as much knowledge as you can from anybody, listen to feedback, take constructive criticism, and, If you're somebody who not necessarily doesn't like hearing, bad parts about your game, I always say, use it and work at it. If they say, you don't have a consistent enough jump shot, use that summer to go in there, get a consistent jump shot so, you can say, look, I put the work in. And it's always good, looking back to seeing how your game progresses over time. Always check back in and look at what you've done. Be grateful and appreciative of the things you've accomplished so that you can see, wow, this is my game here. I put this work in, now I'm here. And don't just take that time for granted because I feel like where you really start to see strides is where you start to check see what you progressed at, what you've gotten better at over time. So just keep working, uh, you know, being observant of the guys around you and people around you can learn from and being a sponge, I would say for sure.
And then what is your time overseas been like? What would you tell hoopers that are overseas or that are about to go overseas? What can you tell them to expect?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's definitely a grind, So, like, playing in college, I was 5.5 hours away from home, which felt like nothing at times. But then that's where I went overseas, and now I'm, 13, 14 hour flight plus away from home. I got a 5.5, or I got 5 hour, 6 hour difference depending on time zone, away from home, away from family, away from friends. And so, it's just one of those things. It's like you got to really commit to, something long term because you're away from home 9 months at a time, maybe more out of the year. And so, just that journey.
Sorry,
Nah, you're all good.
it's
That
lightning. It's
journey.
lightning out here. She
Oh
does not
yeah.
stay like that.
Yeah, I feel you. You good. Just that journey in itself, being so far away from home, having those obstacles, not having the same culture as you're used to, having that, language barrier maybe, depending on where you're at. It's just a journey, it's just a grind. You gotta just, battle through it, fight through it because it's something you gotta fully commit yourself to or one, you're not gonna enjoy it, and then two, it's gonna be harder for you to perform. You gotta be really locked in and focused and that type of environment. That's something I learned over this past year was it was a different type of adjustment. I had to adjust my mind and my body, everything to being in a different culture in a different place. And so, it's something you look back on and you're grateful for. But while you're doing that, while you're grinding in that journey, especially overseas, you just got to keep your head down and keep working for sure.
And
For
then
sure.
what is a moment in your life you're most proud of?
Moment in my life I'm most proud of, I would say, when I scored my 1,000th point in college, that was a moment where I felt proud of it more so for the fact when I was a freshman in college, that was something I never really thought of, or that was something I never really was like, I want to accomplish that. That just came from, putting the team first, being a team first guy, being the guy who wanted to hustle, give it all I had on defense. And, those points accumulated over time to where it was, I got to 1,000 points without even thinking about it without even feeling like it. As I got closer, I started to realize it. But it was just one of those things where I say, I put the team first, I put winning first, and I feel like that's always, helped me individually succeed as a player and continue on further my career because um, just being a team first player. If I needed to score, I was going to score. But once I reached 1,000 points, there, I thought about all the setbacks, the injuries I have faced, and like I said, just those hard times that you go through, where you just got to put your head down and keep working. But once I scored my 1,000th point, it was a really good moment. I had my family there. I got to celebrate that with my teams and some of my lifelong friends. So that was a moment that I'll definitely never forget, and I was really proud of myself for. So.
That's big time. And then what is a moment in your life that was most challenging, and how did you get through it?
A moment I'll say most challenging this past season while I was overseas, I actually had injured my knee, and so I had injured my knee. I was hurting really bad, to the point where I was missing an extended period of time where I had possibly had to go back home, so they could fill in a new American in my spot because I wasn't able to play, I wasn't able to perform, and it was hurting the team. And so that was the moment I was really down. And something I learned and I took from that was, you know sometimes you got to work 2 times harder than you already were because I felt I was working hard, but then I had to work on top of an injury, and then I had to work just to get back to that standard that I had set myself at. So that was a moment in my life, and definitely during the time that I was down on myself, felt a lot of pressure, of course, with my back against the wall. But you know, again, like I said, it's just one of those moments where you got to dig deep within yourself, lean on those people that you trust, lean on your supporting cast, because you're never gonna win this battle or fight this battle alone. So, just having really good supporting cast and people who supported me. Definitely is a blessing, and I'm glad to have them in my corner because there's been times like that where, without them, I wouldn't have been able to have the strength sometimes on days where I'm really low to push myself. So it's always good to have those people in my life and in my family that, keep me going for sure. So,
And then what is something you would go back and tell your younger self?
something I would go back and tell my younger self is just, you know, keep pushing. It's no formula, it's no, trick to it. It's just work at the end of the day. Like you gotta just keep pushing. I would honestly tell myself to work 2 times harder than I'm already working. Just because all that work you put in over time, it may not feel like it or you may not see it, but it all adds up and it all ends up equating to something. It may not be what you thought it was going to be, or it may not come as soon as you thought, but over time it does progress and it's just consistent work. You got to just keep putting in work. And it's something, we all struggle with daily is just being consistent. Consistency is the hardest thing to master. So, something I keep working on as I grow forward is just being consistent in my work, working as hard as I can every day because there's always going to be somebody working that hard or working 2 times harder than that. So you got to be able to keep up and stay consistent with it for sure.
And then what is something you would tell the youth now about basketball?
Something I would tell the youth now about basketball is definitely, defense, stand out. Like, just do something to stand out because everybody's going to be able to shoot, everybody's going to be able to dribble, everybody's going to be able to get a bucket. And so the thing that you got to do is show me where you can do to stand out. Defense, hustling, loose balls, communicating, talking to defense. Like, be the guy who does the small things because those are the small things because not everybody wants to do them. Like talking on defense, being the first on the floor for a loose ball. A lot of guys don't want to do those things, but when you do those things, you really stand out to coaches. You stand out to fans. You stand out to people who really love and appreciate watching the game because they see that and they know that without those small things that you do, your team's not going to be successful because everybody has to have a guy that's going to talk. Everybody has a guy who's going to do the dirty work. Everybody has to have a guy who's going to be the one. Okay, if somebody's scoring those, okay, I gotta lock him down. I gotta shut him down. I gotta slow him down. So just being that guy that stands out, that could do something that not everybody's not necessarily able to do, but willing to do. So just being a guy to stand out, and because at the end of the day, everybody's gonna be able to do the highlight plays. So.
Thanks. And then what is the most important thing you learned while growing up?
Most important thing I learned is, it takes a village. You're not gonna be able to do it on your own. Uh, Even for me to get to where I've gotten now, it took, mentors, it took role models, it took family, it took friends, so people who think that they're gonna do it on their own, you can only get so far. And if you do make it to the top, that's great, but it's always gonna be easier and it's always gonna feel, a lot better when you can celebrate the people who've been with you since day one, the people who, push you on days that you didn't want to push yourself, and so it's always good having those people in your corner, having people beside you to show you the way, to guide you in the right direction and just keep you, level headed. So,
What do you tell people? What would you tell people that are trying to do it by themselves?
I would just tell people that it's always going to be easier to push something heavy when you got somebody beside you. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're pushing something and you're pushing, especially when you're going uphill and you got all these obstacles, sometimes you need that hand to push you or to help push you some like forward. Just because when you try to do things on your own, sometimes you put too much stress on yourself, too much pressure on yourself, and we're just one person. And we're not going to be able to always do it on our own. So,
Facts. And then what does the word believer mean to you?
to me, when I hear believer, I just thinking about, believing in myself first and foremost and, you know, having trust and believing in the work that I put in, right? Because first and foremost, I know I wouldn't be here now if I didn't believe in myself and I didn't believe in the work I put in because I know a lot of people and it's been times myself where I put in the work, but I didn't believe in the work I put in. So when the moment came, I was scared to take the shot. I was scared to make the extra read. I was scared to attack because I didn't believe in the work. So it takes believing in the work that you put in and then, just believing in yourself at the end of the day, because if you don't believe in yourself, you can't expect nobody else to believe in you. So, for me, when I hear believer, I just think about the journey that I took to become the man that I've become today based on the work and based on just believing in who I was. So,
I love that. And then so each time the person before leaves a question for the next person, this time was what do you do with your time?
Um, for me, since I've come home, I spent a lot of time with my family, spending a lot of time with friends, just because all that time that I feel like I missed is so valuable. And the days and the times that, I'm thinking when I'm gone and I'm missing my friends, missing my family, I usually just think about all the good moments that I had with them because you don't get that time back. And so I try to cherish all that time. So spending time with my friends, spending time with my family, and then just enjoying nature. Coming from Iceland, the warmest it got while I was there was probably about 50, 55. So it's been real warm and I've been able to enjoy a lot of the sun since I've been back home in Atlanta and just chilling. So I would say that's the stuff that takes up most of my time.
And then, so what would a question that you would want to leave for the next person?
The question that I want to leave for the next person is what's their favorite quote?
Favorite quote. Okay. And then, so now I'm gonna ask you, what is your favorite quote?
My favorite quote, and I seen it the first time when I watched the movie, if people are familiar with it, Thunderstruck with Kevin Durant, and it's hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. So, what you just take away from that quote is at the end of the day, your talent's only gonna get you so far. You got to put the work in, and when that talent matches up with more talent, it's just gonna be about who works harder. So, that's the quote that I want to leave you guys with. That's my favorite quote.
Right. And then, who's your top three favorite players in the league right now, or who are the
Right?
top three players in the league right now?
Top three favorite players in the league right now. I'm probably gonna have to go Anthony Edwards, SGA, and Jalen Brown. Like those gonna be my three.
So now I gotta ask, what did you think about the Jalen Brown trade that just happened?
Man, I thought it
I'm
was
personally
crazy.
sick because I'm a Celtics
Yeah.
fan, so I'm a little
Oh
hurt.
man, yeah. I
But
I thought it was crazy. Just because Jalen Brown being a Finals MVP level player and being a guy who was number 6 in MVP voting, I just couldn't see him as being a player that you even think about trading. I would have him as untouchable, but I'm looking forward to see how he plays next year in Philly. It's going to be a different environment, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Boston moves forward in the future, just to see if they made the right decision or not. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm definitely excited to see how it turns out for sure. But hoping the best for both franchises, to be honest. I want to see them go head to head in the Eastern Conference Finals. So
that would be fun. That would
yeah.
be a fun series. That's all that I had from for you. Is there anything that you want to ask or anything you want to talk about? I'm opening up for a discussion or whatever you want to do.
Okay, yeah. I mean, for the most part, I think I'm good. I appreciate you having me on here. Hopefully I run into you sometime going to go work out with Champ. But if not, yeah, definitely hit me up. I'm proud of you, man. And I see all the good stuff you're doing and I love the videos and I hope more people decide to tune in for sure.
I appreciate you, man. Hey, man, I'm proud of you too. Over there hooping overseas and getting through college hooping. No,
Appreciate it,
yeah.
man.
Whenever you at champ, I'll be there more often now since I'm
Okay.
starting to rehab my ankle back.
All right, sounds good, man. I'll be praying for you for sure.
I appreciate you, my guy. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right, thank you, bro. You too.
Yeah, man.